People everywhere struggle with finding a purpose and something meaningful to do. Occupational therapists can help by engaging in this search with individuals, families, communities, and organizations. Two occupational therapists from very different parts of Canada show how the century-old activist heart and spirit of occupational therapy is alive today. Halifax is a major port city on Canada's east coast. The city's north end is a resource-challenged community with a complex history. Becky Marval practices occupational therapy here as part of the mobile outreach street health team known as MOSH. Becky has a vision of empowering people in the community to improve their own lives by learning through doing.
Right now I'm working on exploring social enterprising as an opportunity for folks to get into work in a more real way. So it's more of a work-first model where we can meet someone, they're kind of ready to work, they just need a little bit of support or a lot of support, but what they don't need is 4 months of waiting and sitting in a classroom before looking for work, and there's not even a job necessarily out there. That's just not helpful. So with a social enterprise model, so maybe I'll be working on trying to make connections with other business people or researching about how it is that we could get something like that going. So there's always other little pieces. There's the individual, and then there's more of the program level things. So I guess that's kind of a typical day.
I've been wonderfully impressed with the work that Becky is doing in this setting. To me, Becky is all of the attributes of not only the early occupational therapists, but all of, I guess, the sort of hopes and dreams of what occupational therapy might have become.
Occupational therapy is a profession concerned with occupation, very broadly defined as work or any occupation that gives people purpose and a sense of meaning.
This notion of work was so essential to early occupational therapy.
Occupation was recognized by early occupational therapists as a necessary parameter in enabling people to find purpose and something meaningful to do.
Lots of health parameters get affected by people having nothing meaningful to do with their day, no structure, and it's something that occupational therapists could and should be doing much more of.
The 1946 Constitution of the World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Early occupational therapists had adopted this broad view much earlier in the century. To promote health and well-being, they used occupations to engage those who struggled with life. Their practice was based on the old saying that if you teach people to fish instead of just feeding them, they can eat for a lifetime. Along with educators like Dewey in the USA and Montessori in Europe, early occupational therapists adopted the idea of learning through doing.
These people all realized that learning by rote was just not sufficient, and that learning by doing was what was going to make people able to work and able to be competitive and able to take on those jobs and help their country to develop economically.
Two 2,000 kilometers north of Halifax is Iqaluit, the capital of Nunavut. Kathy McNeil practices occupational therapy as a manager with the territorial government. Kathy has a vision of connecting the silos of today's health, education, welfare, justice, and other systems. Her focus is the largely Inuit population of this vast and sparsely populated territory, where the Indigenous language has no word for occupational therapy.
OT in English is still hard to define. Like, do the things you want to do. That's pretty much the simplistic version of it. What we're trying to do now is trying to get maybe a pilot of an actual clinical team together. And so that would involve having a case manager who would then be responsible bringing in all those professionals to help address the needs of that child. And I think when we first came together, the biggest thing is that everyone, whether you're a teacher, whether you're the pediatrician, whether you're the occupational therapist, whether you work at young offenders, there's some children that you just don't know how to help, and you're kind of are on your own, and so there's lots of children that I think all of those professionals felt were there, and so bringing together the minds to try to figure out what the needs of this child is, and bringing in other professionals is essential to providing the best care for that child.
Occupational therapy is best known today as a health profession because that's where most occupational therapy funding exists. Yet early occupational therapists could have chosen a different home base from health.
How we chose the health system, or it chose us, or whatever, is curious, because we were involved in a lot of other systems, for sure. But there were many homes that OT could have gone into, whether it was social service or nursing or teaching or vocational rehab. And I think it's those different perspectives that were there in the early days that now make an amalgam of what a really good OT can and should be doing today, and not seeing those systems as barriers, but working across them.
Occupational therapists who breed a spirit of restless activism and creativity are energizing the profession's legacy of agitation around the world.
They agitated in a way that we have lost, I think. Very often, they had to make their own way to demonstrate that what they could offer was useful. And so that meant raising funds for a position, for example, in a hospital or in a community setting of some sort that wouldn't otherwise be there.
The idea of including an occupational therapist in the MOSH team was not an obvious one. At first, the team and community didn't know what to make of Becky beyond what they knew of hospital-based occupational therapy. Her vision of possibilities and practical solutions has shown them new ways to promote street health.
I got to add quickly that as a nurse, I didn't know that much about occupational therapy, and really doubted Patty's choice initially as to how well occupational therapy was going to fit in with an outreach situation.
Right, because originally it was going to be a social worker.
Yeah, that was the original plan. I was so wrong. Occupational therapy fits in very, very well, especially in situations where I am seeing, the perfect definition for occupational therapy. There are guys who are lost and continue searching and continue finding not good choices because of a loss of occupation. And I couldn't put it any simpler than that, and I can't express enough how well occupational therapy has fit in this situation like this. Yeah.
In today's world, the challenges of finding something meaningful to do require activists who target real-life situations. Becky and Kathy are proof that activist occupational therapy is alive and well today.